Appreciate your insights. I want to bring back the breaking news here with Jason Johnson and Alicia Melendez in Broward. Everything just changed in the last half hour, and everything that they just counted for those several days is not now going to be the count, Alicia.
I mean, and I would actually toss it back to you as the legal expert of the three of us. I simply took the LSAT and didn't go to law school. I mean, is this grounds for yet another legal case? There have been like several dozen at this point. Is this something that the Nelson campaign chooses to go back to the courts with?
You certainly are in a situation when you're building on a 2-minute delay, and whether that was formally uploaded and why was it processed at 3:02 or was it technically up at 2:59? There's plenty for lawyers to argue over, Jason. I think what is so striking here is we were just having a conversation 20 minutes ago about why the legitimacy of this matters and why doing it the right way matters, even if it doesn't change the outcome.
Exactly.
And everyone who's not in a Donald Trump conspiracy theory understands that Nelson has a deficit that historically is unlikely to be overcome. But having been inside there for several days and watched the machine counting and watch all this, I have to tell you, the idea that this is all wiped out over a 2-minute delay is a farce and is also very Florida.
Well, yeah, I mean, Florida gonna Florida, right? And worse than that, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars of time and money have been spent throughout this state, in this region, to try and do this count and have it all get wiped away because somebody can't figure out what their watch is supposed to do on a regular basis. But I think this, and again, the long-term issue is going to be, what can we do to make sure that this doesn't happen in 2020? Because I promise you, if this starts happening at a presidential level, if Rick Scott could threaten to send cops after the board of directors here at the precinct, you don't think Donald Trump wouldn't send the army to a state that he thought was somehow denying him a proper vote count? That's the implication of what we've got going on here. That 2 minutes could end up being 2 months, a lifetime in our democracy, if we have similar problems down the road.
Ari, I've spent my entire life defending the great state of New Jersey, and now you are forcing me to defend the great state of Florida. You know, I think about the fact that this is also the state where we had the tragic Parkland shooting and where we saw students come forward and become national leaders on an issue that we've not seen adults be able to lead on. And I've been there, I've reported from there, and when you meet those young people and you see how excited they are to participate in our democracy, how excited they were to register to vote and to vote for the first time, it's them that we have to keep in the forefront of our mind, right? This is one of the first times that they were going to be able to participate civically in our democracy, and they deserve better than this, right?
Well, you're making such an important point for all of us to consider as we have this breaking news, and as I've been telling viewers, Broward County now not going to count the tally from the recount because it was submitted technically 2 minutes late. That's brand new. But to widen out to what you're saying, when I say Florida, that's shorthand for the Florida elections officials and the policy choices made by individuals, including, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Republican Governor Rick Scott, who oversees all of this and is the chief executive. Because this is also a state that had historically high turnout, over 8 million, which is in a midterm year, which shows civic engagement, which also had a bipartisan coalition, Alicia, to restore voting rights to ex-convicts, which is going to change the entire outcome, potentially, or at least the entire voting population in 2020. So there's a lot of things that are happening that are progress here, even as these officials seem to keep mucking it up.
Right, 1.4 million new voters in Florida. And when I think back to those young people, one of the leaders of March for Our Lives said to me, our politics is not built to match the speed and ferocity of my generation. And I'm thinking of her a lot today as we see that our actual machinery is not equipped to match the speed and ferocity of that generation. They have 2 years to pull their act together. You know, after what happened in 2000, the Supreme Court made Florida build standards for how these ballots would be evaluated, right? So that you would understand which colorings were light and too dark and what would count and what wouldn't count. Clearly, there are bigger issues, and those issues are infrastructure issues. They're also personnel issues, and the clock is ticking now.
Alicia Melendez and Jason Johnson, thank you so much. Up ahead in a different story, a federal judge